What's up, guys? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. Today we are talking ever important Week 16 waiver wire for tight ends. So tight end has been one of the hardest positions to get right all year long. There haven't been that many consistent names. We've had a few guys come on for a few weeks, and injuries and other reasons have caused them to not be reliable options down the stretch. So if you're in that situation, but you've made it to the Super Bowl with strong play from your quarterback, running backs, and wide receivers, and just need a good tight end play this week, don't worry. We have you covered. We're gonna give you a few names to consider this week if you're in desperate need of a tight end. Not too many options out there that are low owned. We try to not recommend players that are over 50% owned because that's not going to help many of you. So we're looking at three guys today. For those of you that are incredibly busy during the Christmas season, I'll just throw the names out there right now. O.J. Howard would be our first choice. Jonnu Smith would be second, and then Mike Gesicki would be third. But let's break down why we're looking at these guys. So beginning with Mike Gesicki, 28% owned. He's going against Cincinnati this week. Now, I will be honest that Cincinnati is not the best matchup against the tight end. They're 27th in points allowed against a fantasy tight end on the season. They haven't played too many teams with a good tight end, so that's part of the reason why they are looking good against the tight end. But they're also a bit of an underrated defense against the pass. They've been good against wide receivers and tight ends pretty much all year. Also has to do with the fact that they very rarely keep up with other teams, so the opposing team has very rarely had to score. Well, this week they play the Dolphins, so all of that narrative kind of gets thrown out, and in a game with two bad teams typically can score a lot of points against each other, so I'm kind of ignoring a lot of the history here for the Bengals defense. The other things to consider with Mike Gesicki is he continues to receive a lot of the target volume in Miami. He had 8 targets last week against the Giants, but hasn't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks. I like for that to change this week. Other than Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki has been the main go-to guy in the end zone for Ryan Fitzpatrick, and eventually that's going to flip over. I think if any team on the Dolphins other than Devontae Parker has a high chance of getting a touchdown this week, I like Mike Gesicki a lot. He's definitely not a high floor guy. He can definitely bust and get very low points, but at any given moment, if he puts up 2 touchdowns this week, that might be the pivotal piece you need to put your team over the top. So that's why I have Gesicki out there at our third option. Number 2, we have Jonnu Smith. Now, Jonnu Smith is 13% owned, the tight end for the Titans. He's playing the Saints this week. The Saints are 12th in fantasy points allowed to the tight end in the past 5 weeks, so they've been above average for fantasy in terms of points allowed, so definitely not the worst matchup. Smith has also quietly had 2 great fantasy games in the last 2 weeks. Touchdown 2 weeks ago, and then last week he had over 100 yards, on scrimmage yards anyway. So especially if the Titans can't rely on Derrick Henry as much in this one, they're going to have to rely more on Tannehill. And Tannehill can't only throw to A.J. Brown every single game, although maybe he can, because A.J. Brown has been absolutely dominant. Jonnu Smith has looked really good. And because New Orleans isn't tremendously strong against the tight end, I do like Jonnu Smith a lot in this one. I think he's a really good DFS play. He's going to be a really cheap option again. And if you need a streaming tight end, I think you could do way worse than Jonnu Smith. But our number 1 option, and this one is very hard to get behind. He's 41% owned, so not out there in every league. But if he is, O.J. Howard, probably the biggest bust for fantasy on the season, at least one of them. Biggest bust for the tight end for sure, but you have to stay fluid during the season and be open to new information. So Evans is out from week 14, Godwin is out from week 15, and they're rolling out with Rashad Perriman and Justin Watson as their main wide receivers. Well, O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate are sitting there like, well, we can catch touchdowns too. They're going against Houston, who are actually number 2 in fantasy points allowed to the tight end position over the last 5 weeks, number 8 on the year. So Houston likes to give up points to the tight end position, and the tight ends are in Tampa Bay are going to need to be used if the Buccaneers are going to have any offense in this game. I like O.J. Howard a lot this week. I get that it's hard to do, especially if you drafted him and dumped him. He burns you, and a lot of people are not willing to go back to that well. But watch OJ Howard win a lot of people fantasy championships this week against Houston Texans in a game that's likely to be high scoring. I think OJ Howard is the pickup this week, even if, again, similar to my other videos, right now this is the rare point in the year that you can actually play defense. So if your opponent doesn't have a tight end and you do, you can still pick up OJ Howard and just put him on your bench just to make sure that your opponent doesn't get a free square to get to use against you. So if OJ Howard is out there, pick him up. If he's not, go after Jonnu Smith, and that's about it. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. I know this part of the year can be very difficult to make fantasy decisions. There's a lot going on right now, and I mean, even personally, I've seen, this time of year, I've just kind of fallen off the ability to pay attention as much, and it can just get kind of annoying when you make a dumb lineup choice because there's a piece of information that you just didn't know about because you didn't have time to do your normal research that you were able to do in September and October. So we're just trying to give you guys quick information so that way you can make the same informed decisions that you were able to make a few months ago and feel good about your lineup going into the most important week on the year. So we can help you guys do that. If you like this, please like and subscribe for more content. And we'll be posting this all week, and then we'll continue to post content to get you ready for the next season. So hopefully you guys enjoy that, and we will see you in the next video.